A small boy stands near the sea in Rameshwaram, selling newspapers early in the morning. The wind is strong, the sky is wide, and somewhere above, an aeroplane crosses the clouds. That boy looks up, and in that silent moment, a simple dream is born. Not a loud dream, not a big announcement, just a quiet thought. What if I could fly, not as a passenger, but as a creator? This is where our story begins, not in power, not in success, but in a small moment of curiosity. This is the story of APJ Abdul Kalam, a boy who grew up in a humble home, who studied with limited resources, and who slowly walked his way into science, into rockets, into history. A man who later became known as the Missile Man of India, and also the President. But even then, he remained a teacher at heart. As you listen carefully, you will not only follow his journey, but also improve your English in a natural way, without pressure, without fear. So relax, listen slowly, and stay with the story. Because sometimes the best way to learn English is not by studying hard, but by listening to a life that teaches you everything. This is the story of APJ Abdul Kalam. The story of APJ Abdul Kalam does not begin in a big city or a rich family, but in a small island town called Rameshwaram in the state of Tamil Nadu. He was born on October 15, 1931, in a simple house made of basic materials, not luxury, not comfort, but honesty and peace. His full name was Awul Pakir Jainul Abdul Kalam. His father, Jainul Abdin, was a boat owner, and his mother, Ashi Amma, was a kind and caring housewife who fed not only her family, but also many poor people in their neighborhood. Life was not easy. The family was not rich. In fact, they struggled to meet daily needs. But even in this simple life, there was something very powerful, something that would shape Kalam's future. Values. His father was not highly educated, but he was wise. He taught young Kalam about discipline, honesty, and strong inner faith. He believed that prayer and hard work could guide a person through any difficulty. His mother showed him kindness, generosity, and compassion for others. As a young boy, Kalam was curious. He would look at the sky for long hours, watching birds fly, wondering how they stayed in the air. These small moments slowly planted a dream inside him, a dream of flight. Every morning, before going to school, Kalam would wake up very early. He helped his family by distributing newspapers. This was not a small task. He had to wake before sunrise, collect bundles of newspapers, and deliver them across the town. But he never complained. Instead, he learned responsibility and the value of earning through effort. At school, Kalam was not the top student in every subject, but he had something more important, a deep desire to learn. He loved mathematics. Numbers made sense to him. They felt like a language he could understand clearly. He also showed interest in science, especially when it came to understanding how things worked. One of the most important influences in his life came from a teacher named Siva Subramanya Iyer. He was a strict teacher, but he believed in Kalam. One day, he explained how birds fly using simple signs. But he did not stop there. He took the students to the seashore and showed them birds in real life, flying freely in the sky. That moment changed something inside Kalam. It was no longer just a lesson, it became a vision. He began to imagine himself working with flying machines, understanding the science of flight, maybe even building them. But life also gave him challenges. Being from a poor family and belonging to a minority community, he sometimes faced social barriers. Once, a teacher asked him to sit separately because of his background. This hurt him deeply. But instead of breaking him, it made him stronger. His friend Ramanatha Shastri, whose father was a temple priest, stood by him. Their friendship showed something powerful, that true human connection is beyond religion or status. Slowly, Kalam started understanding the world not just through books but through experience. He learned that life can be unfair, but effort and character can change your path. As he grew older, his dreams also became bigger. He did not want to remain limited by his surroundings. He wanted to study further, to go beyond Rameshwaram, to explore science deeply. But this was not easy. Higher education needed money, something his family did not have much of. Still, with support from his family, especially his sister Zohra, who even sold her jewelry to help him. After completing his early schooling in Rameshwaram, young APJ Abdul Kalam knew that he had to move forward if he wanted to change his life. Staying in the same place with the same limitations would not help him grow. So he left his hometown, carrying not money but hope. He went to the nearby town of Ramnathpuram to continue his studies. For a boy who had lived in a small and peaceful island town, this change was not easy. The environment was new, the people were different, and the expectations were higher. But Kalam did not step back. He adjusted slowly and kept moving forward. At school, he continued to work hard. He focused deeply on his studies, especially mathematics and science. These subjects were not just lessons for him, they were like doors opening into a new world. He started understanding that science was not only about books, it was about solving real problems, about building things, about creating something meaningful. After finishing school, Kalam joined St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli. This was an important step in his life. Here, he studied physics. For the first time, he was fully surrounded by serious education, by professors, by students who also had big dreams. But something inside him was still searching. Physics was interesting, but it did not fully satisfy his inner curiosity. He wanted something more practical, something connected to his childhood dream, the dream of flight. During this time, Kalam began to think deeply about his future. He asked himself a simple but powerful question: what do I really want to become? The answer slowly became clear. He wanted to study engineering, especially something related to aircraft. He wanted to understand how machines fly, how they are built, and how they can be improved. This decision was not easy. Engineering education required more money, more effort, and more competition. But Kalam was not alone. His family stood behind him. Once again, his sister Zohra played an important role. She supported him financially even when it was difficult. With this support, Kalam got admission into the famous Madras Institute of Technology, also known as MIT in Chennai. This was a turning point. At MIT, everything became more serious. The level of study was high, the pressure was real, and the expectations were strict. Kalam chose aeronautical engineering, the field that deals with aircraft and flight. In the beginning, he struggled. The subjects were difficult, the projects were complex, and the competition was strong. There were moments when he felt fear, when he doubted himself, but he did not give up. One day, something important happened. Kalam was working on a project, designing a small aircraft model, but his progress was slow. Seeing this, his professor became very strict. He warned Kalam that if he did not complete the project on time, his scholarship might be stopped. This was a serious moment. Without the scholarship, Kalam could not continue his education. Instead of feeling defeated, he used this pressure as energy. He worked day and night with full focus, without distraction. He forgot about comfort, about rest, about everything else. And finally, he completed the project on time. When his professor saw the result, he was impressed. He appreciated Kalam's effort and recognized his dedication. That moment gave Kalam something very powerful: confidence. Now he was no longer just a boy with a dream. He was a young man moving closer to his goal. He had learnt an important lesson that pressure is not always negative. Sometimes it pushes you to discover your true strength. As his studies continued, Kalam became more disciplined, more focused, and more determined. His dream of working with aircraft, of serving his nation through science, was becoming clearer with each passing day. And slowly, step by step, the boy from a small island was preparing himself for a much bigger sky. After completing his studies at the Madras Institute of Technology in Chennai, Abdul Kalam stood at the edge of a new beginning. Now, the classroom was behind him and the real world was waiting. Like many young graduates, Kalam had dreams but also uncertainty. He wanted to work with aircraft, to design and build machines that could fly. So he applied for jobs in different places. One of his biggest dreams was to join the Indian Air Force as a pilot. He went to Dehradun for the selection process. He worked hard, prepared himself, and gave his best during the tests. But when the final results came, he was not selected. He stood ninth, and only 8 positions were available. This moment was painful. For a young man who had worked so hard, this felt like failure. His dream of becoming a pilot seemed to end there. But this is where Kalam's thinking was different. Instead of staying in disappointment, he chose to move forward. After this setback, he traveled to Rishikesh. There, he met a spiritual teacher named Swami Sivananda. Kalam spoke about his failure, his confusion, and his broken dream. Swami Sivananda listened quietly and then gave him a simple but powerful message. He told Kalam that sometimes what we want is not what life has planned for us, and instead of fighting it, we should accept it and move in a new direction with full faith. These words changed Kalam's mindset. He understood that failure is not the end, it is only a redirection. Soon after, Kalam got his first job at the Defense Research and Development Organization, commonly known as DRDO. Here, he started working as a scientist. At DRDO, Kalam worked on designing a small hovercraft. It was an interesting project, but deep inside he was not fully satisfied. He wanted to do something bigger, something that could truly make an impact. Still, he did not complain. He continued to learn, to observe, and to improve his skills. Every small experience, every project was helping him grow stronger. During this time, something important happened. His work and dedication were noticed by senior scientists. One of them was Vikram Sarabhai, who is known as the father of India's space program. This connection opened a new door. Kalam was selected to join the Indian Space Research Organization, also known as ISRO. This was a major turning point in his life. At ISRO, Kalam found what he was truly looking for. Here, he was part of a team that was working on building India's first satellite launch vehicle. This was not just a project, it was a national mission. For the first time, Kalam felt that his dream of working with flight, with space, with advanced science was becoming real. The work was not easy, the challenges were huge. India did not have advanced technology at that time. Resources were limited. Many things had to be built from scratch. But Kalam loved this challenge. He worked with full energy, full focus, and a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just working for a job. He was working for a dream that was bigger than himself. At the Indian Space Research Organization, APJ Abdul Kalam finally found a place where his dreams could grow freely. This was not just a workplace, it was a mission, a vision to make India strong in space technology. Kalam was given an important responsibility. He became the project director of India's first satellite launch vehicle, known as the SLV-3. This rocket was designed to carry a satellite into space. It was a huge challenge because India was still learning, still building its capabilities. There were no easy answers, no ready-made solutions. Many countries had already developed such technology, but India had to do it mostly on its own. Kalam and his team worked day and night. They designed systems, tested engines, solved technical problems, and learned from every small mistake. The work required not only knowledge, but also patience, teamwork, and strong belief. Kalam believed in his team. He did not act like a boss, he acted like a guide. He listened to everyone, respected every idea, and encouraged young scientists to speak and think freely. After years of hard work, the moment finally came. In 1979, the SLV-3 was ready for launch. The rocket stood tall at the launch site, carrying the hopes of the entire nation. Everyone was watching, waiting, hoping for success. The countdown began, the engine started, and the rocket lifted into the sky. For a few moments, everything seemed perfect, but then something went wrong. The mission failed. The satellite could not reach its orbit. The rocket did not perform as expected. Years of hard work ended in disappointment. This was a very difficult moment. Kalam was the project director. He felt responsible. He felt the weight of failure, not just for himself, but for his entire team and for the country. But what happened next showed the true meaning of leadership. The chairman of ISRO at that time, Satish Dhawan, did something remarkable. Instead of blaming Kalam, he took responsibility for the failure in front of the media. He protected his team, and then he told Kalam something very powerful, that the team would learn from this and they would try again. This moment stayed in Kalam's heart forever. He learnt that true leaders do not blame others in failure and they give credit to their team in success. The team returned to work. They studied every mistake, every detail, every small error. They improved the design, corrected the problems, and prepared again. 1 year later, in 1980, the SLV-3 was launched again. This time, everything worked. The rocket successfully placed the Rohini satellite into orbit. It was a historic moment. India had entered the space age with its own technology. The entire nation celebrated, and this time something different happened. Satish Dhawan asked Kalam to face the media and take the credit. This simple act showed Kalam the real meaning of success, that success should be shared and failure should be owned. From this mission, Kalam did not just gain recognition, he gained wisdom, confidence, and a deeper understanding of leadership. Now he was no longer just a scientist, he was becoming a leader, a man who could guide others through both failure and success. And with this success, his journey began to rise even higher, towards new challenges and greater responsibilities. After the success of SLV-3 mission at the Indian Space Research Organization, APJ Abdul Kalam had already proven his ability as a scientist and a leader. But soon, a new responsibility came into his life. A responsibility that would change his identity forever. Kalam was invited to return to the Defense Research and Development Organization, known as DRDO. This time, he was not going back as a beginner. He was going as a leader with experience, confidence, and a clear vision. At DRDO, India was working on strengthening its defense systems. The country needed its own missile technology to protect itself and to become self-reliant. At that time, India depended on other countries for many advanced technologies. This made the situation difficult and uncertain. Kalam was given charge of a very important program, the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, also known as IGMDP. This was not just one project. It was a group of major missile systems, each with a different purpose. The program included missiles like Prithvi, a surface-to-surface missile, Agni, a long-range ballistic missile, Akash, a surface-to-air missile, Trishul, a short-range system, and Nag, an anti-tank missile. These names were not chosen randomly. They came from Indian tradition and carried strong meaning and identity. The challenges were huge. India did not have enough advanced technology. Many countries refused to share knowledge. There were restrictions, pressures, and global limitations. But Kalam did not see this as a problem. He saw it as a reason to become stronger. He believed that India must build its own technology with its own people. He gathered a team of young scientists, full of energy and ideas. He trusted them, gave them responsibility, and encouraged them to think independently. Kalam's leadership style was different. He was simple, approachable, and always positive. He did not create fear, he created confidence. He would walk into laboratories, talk to young engineers, listen to their ideas, and motivate them. He believed that great work does not come from pressure, it comes from passion. The work continued for years. There were failures, tests that did not work, systems that needed redesign, and moments of doubt. But Kalam kept moving forward. He reminded his team again and again that failure is not the opposite of success, it is a part of success. Slowly, the results began to appear. Missile after missile, system after system, India started building its own defense strength. The successful development of Agni and Prithvi became symbols of India's growing power. Now the country was no longer dependent in the same way as before. Because of this work, Kalam became widely known as the Missile Man of India. But even after this recognition, he remained the same person. He lived simply, wore simple clothes, and stayed connected to his values. He did not chase power or fame or luxury. His focus remained on work, on learning, and on contributing to the nation. During this time, he also worked closely with important leaders like Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who supported scientific development and national strength. Kalam's role was not just technical anymore. He was becoming a key figure in shaping India's future in defense and technology. And with every success, his journey moved one step closer to something even greater, something unexpected, something beyond science. By the 1990s, APJ Abdul Kalam was no longer just a scientist working in laboratories. He had become one of the most important scientific voices in India. Because of his work in missile development and his strong leadership, he was appointed as the scientific advisor to the defense minister. He also became the secretary of the Defense Research and Development Organization. This position brought him closer to the highest levels of decision-making in the country. Now, his work was not only about technology, it was about national security, about strategy, and about the future direction of India. During this time, the world was changing. Many countries were increasing their military strength, especially in nuclear technology. India also had to think carefully about its position. In 1998, a major and historic decision was taken. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, India conducted a series of nuclear tests at Pokhran Test Range. This operation was known as Pokhran-2. Kalam played a very important role in this mission. He worked closely with another leading scientist, R. Chidambaram. Together, they helped plan, organize, and execute the tests with great secrecy and precision. The operation was highly confidential. Even many people inside the government did not know about it. The team worked quietly, carefully, and with complete focus. When the tests were successfully completed, it became a turning point. India officially became a nuclear power. The whole country reacted with strong emotions. Many people felt proud seeing India stand strong on the global stage. At the same time, the world also reacted. Some countries supported while others imposed restrictions and sanctions. But for Kalam, this moment was not about power, it was about confidence. He believed that a strong nation must be able to protect itself and also stand with dignity in the world. Because of his contributions, Kalam received many honors. One of the highest awards given to him was the Bharat Ratna in 1997, even before the nuclear tests. This showed how much the nation respected his work and dedication. Yet, even after reaching such high positions, Kalam remained deeply simple. He did not behave like a powerful official. He continued to live a humble life with minimal personal needs. He spent time reading, writing, and thinking about the future of young Indians. Slowly, his focus started expanding. He was no longer thinking only about missiles or defense. He was thinking about education, development, and the dreams of millions of young Indians. He began to speak in schools, colleges, and public events. He shared his ideas, his experiences, and his belief that young minds can change the nation. People did not see him only as a scientist anymore. They began to see him as a teacher, a guide, and a source of inspiration. And without planning it, without chasing it, Kalam was moving towards a role that would connect him directly with every citizen of India. By the early 2000s, APJ Abdul Kalam had already lived many roles: scientist, engineer, leader, and advisor. But now, life was about to take him in a completely new direction. In 2002, his name was proposed for the highest constitutional position in India, the office of the President. This decision was supported by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and many political leaders across different parties. This was something unusual. Kalam was not a traditional politician. He did not belong to any political party. He was a scientist, a teacher, a thinker. But maybe that is exactly why people trusted him. When the results came, he was elected as the 11th President of India. On July 25, 2002, he took the oath of office at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of the President. For a man who was born in a small house in Rameshwaram, this moment was extraordinary. But even after entering such a grand place, Kalam did not change. He did not allow power to change his personality. He kept his simple lifestyle, his humble nature, and his deep connection with people. Very soon, people started calling him the People's President. This name was not given by the government, it was given by the people. Kalam made the President's office more open and human. He invited students to meet him, he replied to letters, and he spoke directly to young minds. He believed that the real strength of India was not in buildings or weapons, but in its youth. He often spoke about a vision, a dream of transforming India into a developed nation by the year 2020. This vision became widely known as Vision 2020. He encouraged students to dream big, but also to work hard. He would say that dreams are not what you see when you sleep. Dreams are what keep you awake. During his presidency, Kalam traveled across the country. He visited schools, colleges, villages, and cities. Wherever he went, he carried the same message, that every young person has the power to create change. He also wrote books during this time. One of his most famous works, Wings of Fire, shared his life journey from a small-town boy to a national figure. This book inspired millions of readers, especially students. Another important book, Ignited Minds, focused on the power of young people and the future of the nation. Even in official meetings, Kalam brought a different energy. He focused not only on policies but also on ideas, innovation and long-term growth. He believed that leadership is not about control, it is about inspiration. His presidency lasted for 5 years, until 2007, but during these 5 years, he created something very rare, a deep emotional connection between the president and the people. He showed that even at the highest position, a person can remain simple, kind, and fully connected to humanity. And when his term ended, he did not step away from the people. Instead, he returned to what he loved the most: teaching, learning, and inspiring the next generation. After completing his term as president in 2007, APJ Abdul Kalam did something very simple yet very powerful. He did not retire into silence. He returned to the classroom. For Kalam, teaching was not a job, it was his true calling. He began visiting many institutions across India. He served as a visiting professor at places like Indian Institute of Management Shillong, Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, and Indian Institute of Management Indore. He also interacted with students from engineering colleges, universities, and even schools in small towns. Wherever he went, students waited for him with excitement. They did not see him as a former president, they saw him as a teacher, someone who understood their dreams. Kalam spoke in simple words, but his ideas were deep. He encouraged students to ask questions, to think differently, and to believe in themselves. He told them that each person has a unique purpose and that they should work to discover it. He often carried a small notebook, writing ideas, thoughts, and questions. He believed that learning never stops, no matter how old you are or how much you have achieved. During this time, he continued writing books. One of his important works, India 2020, explained his vision for a developed India. Another book, My Journey, shared small but meaningful stories from his life. He also spoke about Pura, which stands for providing urban amenities in rural areas. This idea focused on improving villages by giving them better infrastructure, education, and opportunities so that people would not have to leave their homes to find a better life. Even in his later years, Kalam's energy remained strong. He traveled continuously, spoke for hours, and interacted with thousands of students. He answered their questions with patience and always encouraged them to dream big. Then came a day that would become a powerful and emotional moment in his life story. On 27th July 2015, Kalam was invited to deliver a lecture at the Indian Institute of Management Shillong. The topic of his lecture was Creating a Livable Planet Earth. As always, he stood in front of the students, speaking with passion, sharing ideas, asking questions. But during the lecture, he suddenly felt unwell. He collapsed on the stage. He was immediately taken to the hospital, but despite all efforts, he could not be saved. APJ Abdul Kalam passed away, doing what he loved the most, teaching. The news spread across the country and then across the world. People were shocked and deeply saddened. Leaders, students, teachers, and ordinary citizens all felt a personal loss. Because Kalam was not just a public figure, he was a part of people's lives. His body was taken back to his hometown, Rameshwaram, where he was laid to rest with full state honors. But even though he was gone, his ideas, his words, and his spirit remained alive. He left behind not just achievements, but a way of thinking, a way of living, a belief that even the simplest person can achieve the greatest things. And in the hearts of millions, he continues to live, not just as a former president, but as a teacher forever. After the passing of APJ Abdul Kalam, something unusual could be seen across India. People did not remember him only with sadness, they remembered him with inspiration. Students, teachers, scientists, and even leaders began to speak about his ideas, his words, and his simple way of living. His life did not end on that day in 2015. It continued in the thoughts and actions of millions. In many schools and colleges, special programs were started to remember him. His birthday, October 15th, began to be celebrated as World Students' Day in his honor. This showed how deeply he was connected to young people. Across the country, roads, institutions, and awards were named after him. One important example is the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University in Lucknow. Many other colleges and research centers also carry his name, keeping his memory alive in the world of education. But his true legacy is not in names or buildings, it is in ideas. Kalam believed strongly in the power of dreams. He said that a dream is not something you see while sleeping, a dream is something that does not let you sleep. This simple thought became a guiding idea for many young people. He also believed that failure should not stop anyone. He often explained that failure is only a step, a lesson that helps you move closer to success. This thinking helped many students overcome fear and try again. Another important part of his legacy is his vision for a developed India. Through his ideas like Vision 2020, he encouraged people to think about long-term growth, about science, education, and innovation. He wanted India to become strong not only in defense but also in knowledge, technology, and human values. Many young scientists today working in organizations like Indian Space Research Organization and Defense Research and Development Organization have been inspired by his journey. Some of them even say that they chose their career path because of Kalam's story. His books continue to be read across the world. Students still read Wings of Fire and feel motivated. His words continue to guide people even years after his passing. But perhaps the most powerful part of his legacy is his example. He showed that success does not require a rich background. It requires strong values, hard work, and belief. He showed that a person can reach the highest position in the country and still remain humble. He showed that knowledge becomes powerful only when it is used to help others. And today, when a young student looks at the sky and dreams of doing something big, somewhere the story of Kalam is quietly guiding that dream. His life became a message, and that message continues with every new generation. The life of APJ Abdul Kalam is not just a story from the past. It is a message, a guide, a quiet voice that still speaks to every person who wants to do something meaningful in life. He was not born with power. He was not born with wealth. He did not have special advantages. He started as a simple boy in Rameshwaram, helping his family, selling newspapers, studying under basic conditions. But what made him different was not his situation, it was his mindset. He believed that no matter where you start, you can choose where you go. Throughout his life, Kalam followed a few simple principles. He believed in dreaming big. Not small dreams, not safe dreams, but dreams that challenge you, that push you, that make you uncomfortable. Because only such dreams can change your life. He believed in hard work, not just working, but working with full focus, with honesty, and with consistency. He showed that success is not about one big moment, it is about small efforts repeated every day. He believed in learning from failure. He did not hide from failure. He faced it, understood it, and used it as a step forward. From the failed SLV launch to many challenges in his career, he kept moving without losing hope. He believed in giving back to society. Even after reaching the highest position in India, he did not think only about himself. He thought about students, about villages, about the future of the nation. And most importantly, he believed in people. He believed that every young mind, no matter how small or unknown, has the power to create change. Today, the world is different. Technology has changed, opportunities have increased, but the basic truth remains the same. Your background does not decide your future, your actions do. Kalam's life quietly asks a question, not in a loud voice, but in a calm and simple way. What will you do with your life? Will you stay limited by your situation, or will you rise above it? Will you be afraid of failure, or will you learn from it? Will you follow the crowd, or will you create your own path? His story does not force an answer, it invites you to think. And maybe that is why his life is so powerful, because it does not end with him, it continues in you. So if there is a dream inside you, no matter how small it feels right now, protect it, work for it, and give it your full effort. Because somewhere, in a small town, a boy once looked at the sky and believed that he could reach it. And one day he did.